Russia launched a massive overnight attack on Ukraine, firing more than 450 drones and 30 missiles across the country. The Ukrainian president has said that the strikes killed one child in Zaporizhzhia and injured more than 20 people, targeting civilian and energy infrastructure as the country prepares for winter. And residents in Kyiv and other parts reported blackouts, damage to residential buildings and fires.
We had no power and water when I left my house. I can't get to work because subway is not operating and buses are overflowing.
We didn't sleep at all tonight. From 2:30 there was so much noise. By 3:30 we had no electricity, no gas, no water, nothing.
7-year-old Ukrainian boy killed in the Russian strike was the son of a former prisoner of war, now badly injured.
This was the family of a prisoner of war. He returned home from captivity in March. He had been there for almost 3 years. He was one of the Azovstal defenders. They surrendered at Azovstal and spent almost 3 years in captivity.
The Russian overnight strike also caused transport disruptions and delays in Kyiv.
To be honest, there is no power and I am not in a good mood. But I have faith that everything will be fine. There is no coverage, no water, nothing. But we are Ukrainians. We are the strongest nation and we will keep living our best life despite everything.
Overall, the Russian forces reportedly fired over 450 drones and 30 missiles across Ukraine overnight, killing one and injuring more than 20 people. Electricity supply was disrupted in at least 9 regions of the country, including the capital. Russia seemed to be repeating its strategy of attacking civilian and energy infrastructure ahead of the winter. Ukraine's biggest electricity operator reported damage to multiple thermal plants. Meanwhile, the head of Zaporizhzhia's regional administration has said that traffic across the huge Dnipro hydroelectric power plant, which is Ukraine's largest, connecting 2 banks of the city, was limited due to the overnight attack. 20 residential buildings were also damaged in Zaporizhzhia. Zelensky called the strikes a form of terror aimed at civilians, while Ukraine's prime minister described it as one of the largest concentrated attacks against energy infrastructure. The energy sector has been a key battleground since the war started in 2022. Each year since then, Russia has tried to cripple the Ukrainian power grid before the bitter winter season, hoping to erode public morale. Ukraine's winter runs from late October through March, with January and February being the coldest months. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said on Thursday that Washington and NATO allies were stepping up the pressure to end the war in Ukraine after his outreach to Russia's Vladimir Putin failed to achieve a ceasefire.
We are stepping up the pressure. We're stepping it up together. We're all stepping it up. NATO's been great.
And Trump, who has helped broker the ceasefire deal in Gaza, has admitted that ending the Russia-Ukraine war was proving even harder to solve. Trump hosted Putin in Alaska in August, remember, but failed to achieve a breakthrough. And since then, Russia's attacks on Ukraine have escalated. On Friday, the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, has said that Moscow remains optimistic on the state of the Russia-US relations and hopes for a peaceful settlement. Speaking about the absence of any progress in talks between Russia and Ukraine, Peskov has said that process was on pause and that Ukraine had not taken new steps towards further negotiations because of the position taken by the EU countries. Earlier in the week, the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister has said that the momentum from the summit between Putin and Trump has been largely exhausted. But the Kremlin aide, Yuri Ushakov, denied on Thursday that efforts by Russia and America to end the war were still alive. What does journalism really mean in the digital age? The Pope thinks, in fact, he is speaking out against clickbait. At a private Vatican audience with global news agencies, the Pope called sensationalist headlines a degrading practice, urging reporters to uphold ethics, transparency, and the public good. He also warned about the risks of AI and how it could shape the way we receive and share information. In the first 6 months of his papacy, Pope Leo has been a proactive supporter of journalism, describing it as a public good that we all should protect. He said on Thursday, and I'm quoting, "Communication must be freed from the misguided thinking that corrupts it, from unfair competition and the degrading practice of so-called clickbait," quote unquote. As for what clickbait means, in case you're unaware, it's a form of sensationalist, hyperbolic headlines designed to make you click, often leaving out key information. If you read the news daily, you've probably come across such headlines. A promising headline that the more you read reveals it was exaggerated in a way or could also be misleading to a certain extent. The problem here is growing in the age of AI and in a world that is chronically online. The question becomes, how do you tell the difference between well-researched, nuanced reporting and empty, misleading or fake news? And that, the Pope says, is why journalists matter more than ever. Reading his speech in Italian, the Pope also highlighted reporters on the front lines in Gaza and Ukraine and reminded the world that free access to information is a pillar that upholds society. He said, and I'm quoting, "We are called to defend and guarantee it." He spoke about the challenges facing the media with AI, warning artificial intelligence is changing the way we receive information and communicate. But who directs it and what, and for what purposes? We must be vigilant to ensure technology does not replace human beings and that the information and algorithms that govern it today are not in the hands of a few, quote unquote. The Pope also championed transparency, accountability, quality, and objectivity, and urged journalists to never sell out your authority, quote unquote. And in an era where headlines compete for clicks and information travels faster than ever, his message is a timely reminder that journalism is not just about being fast, it's about being true, ethical, and also reliable. And as consumers, maybe it's time that we pause to think before we click. In Italy, the government is eyeing a new law that could ban the burqa and niqab in all public places. Critics arguing that this bill risks targeting Muslim women, restricting religious freedom, and fueling divisions in Italy's multicultural society. But supporters pointing to France and other countries that have imposed similar bans, saying it's about secular values and national sovereignty. And as that debate intensifies, questions remain. Is it a measure to protect civil liberties or a step too far into personal and religious choices? Here's what is known so far. The right-wing ruling party, Brothers of Italy, says the move is part of a broader push against what it calls Islamic separatism, including stricter rules on mosque funding and forced marriages. And now, for the unversed, the burqa is a full-body garment covering a woman from head to toe, includes a mesh screen over the eyes. A niqab leaves the area around the eyes clear. If the ban comes into effect in Italy, it would prohibit the wearing of garments covering the face in all public spaces, including shops, schools, offices. And those who violate the ban reportedly would face a fine. The proposal is part of a broader bill intended to address what the right-wing party of the Prime Minister has described as cultural separatism associated with Islam. The head of immigration for Brothers of Italy has said on Wednesday, I'm quoting, "It's a bill that will essentially deal with regulating the funding of mosques and with preventing and banning the use of the full face veil." It also emphasizes the legislation against forced marriages. In Italy, we apply our laws which are based on a specific set of values, quote unquote. Now, this proposed bill would include increased penalties for forced marriages and requirements that religious groups not formally recognized by the state disclose any foreign funding. They draw inspiration from France, which was the first European country, remember, to introduce a full burqa ban in 2011. And since then, Belgium, Denmark, Switzerland, several others have imposed full or partial bans on women's clothing related to Islam. Italy already has a law dating back to 1975 that prohibits complete face covering in public places. Though it does not specifically mention burqas, the bill also introduces several new criminal provisions, including penalties for virginity testing, while strengthening punishment for forced marriages by adding religious coercion as grounds for prosecution. Meloni's coalition partner presented more limited legislation focusing on face coverings earlier this year itself. It is currently under review in a parliamentary commission. But it was not clear if it would be merged with this new bill proposal. Since the coalition has a strong majority in the parliament, such legislation should find backing. Although there was no immediate timetable for its debate, the proposed bill is expected to spark intense debate in Italy's parliament, with lawmakers and civil rights groups weighing in on both sides. If passed, it would mark a shift in Italy's approach to religious freedom and could set a precedent for further legislation targeting Islamic practices. For now, the bill remains a proposal, and many questions about its implementation and impact on Italy's Muslim communities remain unanswered. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.